So, welcome back to Mind Matter CogSci Talks, the podcast where we explore the fascinating world of cognitive science. So, today I'm delighted to welcome Arezoo, a PhD candidate in psychological science and human development at Cornell University, where she works under the mentorship of Professor Robert Sternberg. Her research explores some of the truly fascinating topics, including wisdom, cultural intelligence, leadership, and human motivation. So her work focuses on understanding how wisdom develops, how it what shapes effective leadership, and like the decision making of a true leader, and how to be cultivated in both individuals and organizations. So she's also contributed to developing new ideas like transformational psychology, which kind of emphasizes using psychological research to create a meaningful and lasting positive change. So thank you so much for joining me today, and it's a pleasure to have you on Mind Matter CogSci Talks. So I guess before we dive deeper into like your research and what you do, this kind of like a really like broad topic of like what first sparked your interest in psychology, and when did you realize that this was the field that you kind of wanted to dedicate your career to?
So first of all, hello and thank you. Hello to you and all your audience, and thank you for having me here and inviting me here and to this very interesting discussion. I'm very happy to see you. And yeah, I started thinking about being a psychologist when I was a high school student. So in my country, I'm from Iran. So in my country, when you are good at mathematics and you're great in calculating and those kinds of stuff, so you're expected to go to and decide and choose one of the engineering majors in your in your college in your university because it is high paying when you go to the job and it is a high prestigious major or something like that. And I was pretty much good at mathematics. So my parents encouraged me to pursue that, and also my teachers and also the society. But during all that time in my whole high school, although I was very talented in mathematics and I was good at it, but I realized that there is something missing inside me. And I like doing mathematics, but not that much that I deploy all my talents and all my abilities into that major. So at some point I decided no, it is not really who I am, and it is not really what I really want to do. And um, what makes not what I'm really good at it, and I'm talented. So I realized that okay, so maybe talent is important, but it is not enough. Sometimes you need to explore some other aspects of your character, of your personality, and realize that okay, so I need to also find something that I'm talented, but I really like, and this is aligned with who I am. So I decided to enter psychology because um, that was what I really enjoyed doing and studying. And also, I chose industrial and organizational psychology because I really like to help other people to also make some kind of informed decisions when they want to find their jobs, when they want to go to school, or when they want to go to universities or to organizations, because this is beneficial for both people. When I was a IO psychologist and I entered organizations, I realized that there are lots of people here who are just working to just get by, just being something good enough. And they didn't really enjoy their work. They just went to work at, for example, 8 a.m. and then went back home at 5 p.m. and they were not really happy about their work. So I realized, okay, so this seems to be something universal. So people just do something that society wants them to do. So I decided to work on this job person fit and what makes people to be happy in what they are really doing. And then
Mm,
after that, I started to become interested in leadership, and I wanted to know, okay, so people need to have some characteristics to make them to be a good leader, because being a good leader is very important for organizations and for the country and for everyone. So I became interested in knowing about leadership and what makes people to be a good leader. And then I started to know about different kinds of personality, different kinds of characteristics, and I even work on intelligence to know, okay, so maybe good leaders are highly intelligent people. But I realized that no, this is not always the case because um, we have people who are highly intelligent, but they are not deploying their intelligence in their work. Also, we have some highly intelligent people who are using their knowledge, their skills, and their intelligence to manipulate other people for their own benefits. So it is not enough to be intelligent. So you need to also have some other characteristics. So I became interested in wisdom. Wisdom is that you can make good decisions, and these good decisions are something beneficial for everyone, for all the people, not just themselves. And I started learning about wisdom. I started to train leaders to be wise. I started to develop some measurements to how we can find wise leaders and those kinds of stuff. And then after that, I decided to know, so why at some point people decide to devote themselves to become better for everyone, not just for themselves. And that was where I decided to come to the US and then start working with Professor Sternberg because he is one of the great scholars in the wisdom area. So I became interested in knowing about that, the underlying characteristic of people who make them to devote themselves for common good and pursue common good and do something positive changes in the world. So I decided to start another PhD in
Mm,
psychological science and human development, which explores more underlying characteristics and constructs within humans and people.
mm. Yeah. I mean, I think from what you first said about like kind of going with your passion and not just your talent, I think that's such an important thing because I like can't imagine going to work at 8 a.m. and coming back at 5 just to like know that, the only thing I like about my job is that you get money. I feel like to truly make an impact, I feel like you definitely need to put yourself into it, which means you have to have passion. But
Yeah,
yeah, what you started is
exactly.
really cool. Hmm.
Yeah. Some people think that their jobs are something different than their lives. But I
Mm,
think jobs is part of your life. And actually, you are devoting lots of your time in your workplace and in what you're doing. So it is important to choose something that you feel fulfilling about that and you feel that, okay, this is something that gives meaning to my life and something that I truly enjoy doing. And I think this is aligned with who I am. And it is not always important that what society and your parents or other people tell you, but it is also important to listen to your heart and see that what you are telling yourself about what you really like to do.
yeah, I feel like with just pure talent, it's hard to get. I mean, I think it's easy to get to a certain point, but once you want to get past that point, you actually need true passion to actually
Yeah.
like what you're doing and continue. So I guess to also talk about what you talked about, like your PhD. So I saw that you've already completed your PhD in industrial organizational psychology, and now you're pursuing another one in psychological science and human development. So, that's crazy. Two PhDs, like almost two PhDs. What
Yeah.
kind of inspired you to continue like your research and I guess like continue and come to the US and study more with Professor Steinberg or Sternberg, sorry.
Yeah. I really like, as I also briefly mentioned in my previous answer, I really like to know about the underlying um, characteristic that makes people do both what they really want to do in their lives and what makes them motivated to work and to deploy all their talents and their knowledge in for a common good and not just personal benefits. Also, I was very interested to learn more about the construct of wisdom. What makes people to become wise? So what makes people to decide, okay, I want to make a good decision, but a decision that also considers other people's benefit, and this is not just something that benefits me. Because we can see in this world there are lots of conflicts, there are lots of problems, lots of challenges, and one of the important part of all these challenges in the world is the leaders who are behind these challenges, and they just think about their own benefits. What makes me to become more powerful? What makes me to gain more power and then more money and then become well known and all those kinds of stuff. So they ignore thinking about other people's benefits, what makes the world better, because this world is something for all of us, and we should all think about it too. When we are living this world, we need to just make it better for the next generation. So yeah, so that was very important to me, and I decided to come here to learn more about these things from Professor Sternberg. Also, he's very good at research. He's very good at developing theory. So decided to come here. I thought that, okay, would that be a day that I could develop a theory for myself and from the scratch? So I thought, okay, that is impossible, but I really like that. But now that I'm looking at those times, I think that, okay, that was not that much impossible because I already am developing two theories with Professor Sternberg, which I'm very proud and happy about them. So yeah, so I really like to follow my previous desires, previous dreams about knowing about wisdom and knowing how we can make the world a better place with having more wise people. Also, just working with Professor Sternberg with lots of experience and like lots of knowledge, so I can become a better researcher.
Mm. I guess on the topic of like wisdom, if someone asked you like what actually makes someone wise, or in your opinion, like who around you would you consider wise? Like how would you kind of answer that?
Um, some people, when we ask them, who do you think is a wise, they say that they would say that, okay, an intelligent person is a wise person because they can make good decisions. But as I mentioned, intelligence is not enough. We have lots of intelligent and creative people who just use all their abilities to gain um, power and manipulate other people because they have some cognitive abilities to make them able to manipulate other people to just gain their some personal benefits. So what makes wisdom different than being intelligent is that a person is thinking about interest. So the person should have some perspective taking. So the person is able to think about different aspects of a problem, who is affected by these decisions, and what are important to all those people, and what decision make them to have a better life, a balanced decision. And also it is very important to think about long-term effects. So sometimes we are making a decision that we think that, okay, this is a good decision, but that is a good decision for short term. How about the long term? For example, we have AI in this era, and then we think, okay, AI is making everything easier and it seems to be something good, something positive. But when we think about a long time effect of AI, we may think about some negative effects. For example, people who are relying on AI, it means that they're using their brain and their cognitive abilities less and less and less. And what would happen to all these people who are using their cognitive abilities and their brains less in the future? So they probably would not have that much ability to do independently in this world. Especially for people who are in college, they are there to start learning knowledge and exploring things and then use all their abilities to just develop those kinds of different parts of their mind. But when AI comes here, they stop just using their mind. So it would have some long-term negative effects that we should also consider. So yeah, so wisdom is something about that. You need to be able to think about the long-term effects, think about the short-term effects, being able to consider all the people who are affected with the decision, and then being able to see the problem and the challenge from the view of all those parties and different people, to be able to make a decision that all people are benefited with that.
Hmm. So I guess like if I were to ask you about like the best qualities of a good leader that you met, you'd probably say long term, like thinking about long term, being really considerate of others. Maybe do you think they would be like selfless too, like considering others over themselves, like as compared to, like the people who only devote their I don't like they only care about themselves. They want to make the best for decisions for themselves and not others.
Mhm. Um, I wouldn't say people shouldn't think about themselves and just ignore themselves. Of course, we have people who just did that and they sacrificed themselves, who are role models as very wise leaders like Mahatma Gandhi or Mother Teresa or lots of other leaders who did lots of good things and they sacrificed their lives, their health, and their everything for those kinds of stuff. But when we are talking about wisdom, people can also think about themselves and what this decision would bring for me. What would that decision would also be good for me, but also good for other people? Or no, this is only about me and my own power and my own benefits. So I think there should be some kind of balance between these. But yeah, there always are people who just maybe this is part of their meaning in life. Maybe they are thinking about, we see that they are sacrificing themselves, but actually they are having some fulfillment about some meaning in life they have. For example, they're happy with their doing. So they are also thinking about something that makes them happy and also makes other people and the world better, a better place.
I agree. I think that is also a great leader. So I guess nowadays, like we hear a lot about like IQs. I know I've taken a lot of like IQ tests and also like emotional intelligence, but I saw that you also studied cultural intelligence. So I guess like for the viewers, like what is cultural intelligence and why do you think it's becoming more important like nowadays?
Yeah, we also, Professor Sternberg and I also work on attitudinal intelligence and cultural intelligence. Attitudinal intelligence is what I thought about when I was in high school. I thought that okay, I can do it, but I'm not willing to do it. I'm very I can do mathematics, but I don't like to use all my abilities to do the mathematics and engineering major, for example, in the long term. Why? Because there is a distinction between how much intelligent you are and whether you are using your intelligence or not. So attitudinal intelligence is about the attitudinal aspect of intelligence. So in that paper on research, we say that okay, we also need to measure that attitudinal part of human and see whether people are willing to devote those abilities or their intelligence in what they are doing. And for cultural intelligence, it is about, it is also becoming more important nowadays because we have more people from other cultures and other countries coming to our country, or we go to other countries. So we have lots of people with different values, different perspectives. So when we are making decision, we need to be able to see those differences. For example, we see something and then we get shocked and then we say that, okay, that person is disrespectful to me. So I hate them. Probably they don't like me. But the fact is that maybe the way they are behaving is something cultural. So it is
Mm.
appropriate in that particular culture. So I need to also consider that aspect. So cultural intelligence is about that, making decisions and considering different culture of people in that particular decision, in that particular situation. So we are not just judging based on our own perspective and own values. We are also considering the values of other people and how they're thinking about the situations. So, and as you mentioned, why this is important, because we are living in some time in an era that people are traveling a lot. There are lots of immigrants everywhere. So it is becoming more and more important to be able to think about cultural differences and how it affects people's behavior and thinking.
Oh yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. I think growing up with like different cultures around you, your experiences shape the way you think. They shape you, your morals, right? So the way you make decisions or the way you view something is different, is definitely different from how someone else views something. I know someone earlier in one of my episodes was like, if you give $1,000 to like someone like a regular person versus giving it to like, I don't know, like Elon Musk, like it's obviously different. So I guess making decisions would be different in that. So I guess if everyone listening could walk away with like one psychological habit or just a mindset like that would genuinely kind of like improve their lives, what would you hope that it would be?
I would like to answer this question based on one of the theories that Professor Sternberg and I will develop and will be out in less than a month. We call it needs theory. So it is about different needs and motivations of human. So behavior is like an iceberg. So what we see is just the observable part of this ice, what we see about other people and themselves and ourselves, the behavior. This is just the observable part of the behavior. But there are some underlying part of those kinds of behavior. There are some motivations and core needs which are driving and guiding those kinds of behavior. So when we want to uh, look at ourselves or when we want to know why people are behaving in a particular way, we also need to think about those underlying core needs, which we call them security, acceptance. You need to feel accepted in a society or friendship or whatever you are. Need for initiative. You need to be able to make decisions for your life. You need to be able to feel that, okay, my opinion is also acceptable in this particular situation. Competence, you need to be able to feel that I'm competent. I'm able to do this particular task, or being able to be successful in this situation. And then meaning in life. So these are our five core needs. So in all situation, in all behavior that we are doing, or when we are making new friends, or when we are applying for a job, or when we are joining a community, we should see whether this community or this friend or this partner or this situation is satisfying our core needs or not. Are they accepting who we are as we are now? Are they appreciating our own opinion? Are they making us as a very safe place, something that we feel being safe and we feel being supported? And then, is it aligned with my meaning in life? Is it something that makes me that my life has a purpose and it is not just wasting my time and it is not according to my values? And if yes, if this partner, if this friend, if this situation, and if this job is fulfilling these core needs, so yeah, so this is where I am, where I should go, and this is aligned with who I really am. So yeah, so this is your thing and you should just pursue that. And also, this is important to think about your meaning in life. What is important to you in life and what makes your life a meaning? So you should think about that and then organize your job, your life based on that meaning in life. It makes you happier, and also if this meaning in life is something that makes a world a better place, it also would be beneficial for other people. That is very
Mm.
important when we leave this world.
Wait, that's really cool that you should always consider those 5 points plus like whether it should benefit other people. I guess like nowadays, I feel like for jobs, a lot of people don't really consider their meaning in life. They kind of just consider, oh, how much money does this bring us? But also maybe they do consider it as in like, if I get this money, how will my life be? So I think that's definitely an interesting question when you're making decisions in life. So I guess finally, to any high schoolers or college students who are listening, who are kind of fascinated by like decision making, like what you're studying and hope to do research like you one day, like what advice would you give them?
Um, I would like to give the advice that Professor Sternberg always tells to everyone. He always says he has lots of good advice. But one thing that he always emphasizes is having persistency and resilience in whatever you are doing. So if you are doing something and you think this is the right thing, you need to have uh, consistency. If you fail, you may fall down. You should just get up and run away. You may just again fail, and then you shouldn't give up. You should just wake up and just run again. So this is life. We should just follow our dreams and what we think are the good things that we need to follow. So yeah, so this is the advice from Professor Sternberg.
Yeah, I think that's definitely really important, but also I feel like it's kind of concerning nowadays with AI because I know like I'm studying like cognitive offloading and how nowadays like all of these students they're offloading a lot of these deep thinking tasks and like these critical thinking tasks to AI so they don't have this like sense of persistence kind of or they give up or they'll see the problem and like they don't really understand what it means so they're just like okay AI can do it I don't need to know it so I think that's definitely concerning, considering like I do agree that persistence is really important, being able to continue what you're doing, even like despite the difficulties. Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially when you are doing a very big and creative job,
Mm,
people may just don't want to accept it and they just say that, okay, this is not a good idea because this is something beyond the traditional way of thinking. So they start to just say that, okay, it is not possible, you can't do it. So a very big ideas always have lots of difficulties to get accepted by other people. So it is important to have these kinds of persistency.
well, so I think that brings us to the end of today's episode of Mind Matter CogSci Talks. So thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your journey and your research and your thoughtful perspective and curiosity on wisdom, leadership, and psychology. And it was truly inspiring to hear how your work aims to not only kind of better understand human behavior, but also to help people and organizations like make decisions while also making sure that they create a meaningful and positive change. And I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. And thank you to everyone who's listening. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation and enjoyed something new about the science and curiosity behind wisdom, leadership, and what it means to actually live and have a purpose in life. And make sure you make decisions using that and lead thankfully. So I guess until next time, stay curious, keep asking questions, and thanks for listening. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this interesting conversation.